Laura Eklund from the California Academy of Sciences is going to tell us about a feather earring from Northern California.
Hi, I hope you can hear me okay. We're going to go from human remains to human cultural material. I'm Laura from the California Academy of Sciences in San Francisco, and I want to talk to you about a piece that we have in our anthropology collection, specifically this earring. So as you can see, the earring shown on the far left is created in the shape of a flower. And as you can see from the image of the reverse, the petals of the flower are actually constructed of 3 teeny tiny little baskets. Needless to say, that piece is actually a lot smaller than it appears on this screen. And the cultural affiliation of this piece is the Pomo. And the Pomo live just north of San Francisco, where the California Academy of Sciences lives. You can see there's a map of California there, and I've kind of popped out the greater northern Bay Area, and you can see the Pomo territory there in lavender. And the Pomo are considered some of the greatest basket weavers, and that's really saying a lot because basket weaving in California is a very strong and deep and prevalent tradition. If you look at the state of California, and granted the state of California is a random geographic political boundary, however, if you look at that random boundary and you look at who was living there at the time of contact, it was very, very densely populated. California is pretty easy to live in. Most of the state's pretty temperate. It's not like, Chicago. We don't get a lot of snow. We don't get a lot of excessive heat in most of the state. And so it's able to support a lot of life. And that's both plant life and animal life, of course, including humans. And so California, with this very dense pre-contact population, was actually populated by many, many small tribes. Not a few large tribes, but many small tribes with cultural and linguistic similarities and differences. And one of the similarities that most of them had was basket weaving technologies. They had baskets that were used for just about everything. And if you look around the world at what people tend to use to do something like transport water, there are 2 main materials that you find throughout the world, not exclusively, but very prevalently, and those are gourds and pottery. And California did not have any gourds in it, and there's very, very little pottery. You do find some pottery down in the southeastern portion of the state, but most of the state, for a variety of reasons, was using basketry instead for just about everything. They had basketry clothing items, they had baby carriers made out of basketry, they had basketry items for just about every aspect of food technology, from procuring food to processing, serving, storing it. They had baskets that they could cook in using indirect heat. They would not put the basket directly on the flame, but instead they would put stones in the flame and then transport those hot stones into the food product in the basket. And they had baskets that were watertight. And so out of all of these different basketry techniques and traditions throughout the state of California, the Pomo are considered some of the greatest basket weavers. So this earring, this Pomo earring, again, is a series of baskets that are then woven together, and as you may have noticed, it's actually woven entirely out of feathers. That is a metal hook there at the top, but aside from that, that is all feather work. And the feathers come from the acorn woodpecker. You can see a historic painting there of the woodpecker on the far right, showing that they only have the red feathers from which this earring was constructed on the crown of their head. And this earring is actually a pierced ear. It's a question I get a lot. How could it be so old if it's a pierced ear? Was it converted from a clip? Pierced ears were actually very common prior to about 1930 when clips became the fashion. And a lot of people don't realize that today. So just a quick comment on how we acquired this piece. We grow the anthropology collections almost exclusively through donations, and this piece came to us from a convent. Yes, a convent. The convent had been established in about 1860 in Eklund, just east of San Francisco, and over the years people had kind of semi-randomly donated things to them from mostly native California, but other parts of North America and indeed around the world. And they moved buildings a few years ago, and they found this box of objects dating from anything from 100 to 150 years prior, and brought it to the Academy as a donation, and this was one of the pieces in it. And they were very apologetic that there was only the one earring. There's a reason I'm only showing you one. They were very apologetic, but given the technique and the how well this exemplifies homo basketry, we were really delighted to have even the one. So thank you very much.